When we refer to Asia, we have the maximum human resource. We have maximum consumer markets, maximum manufacturing, maximum natural resources, and the development scope, and the connectivity potential within. Ladies and gentlemen, virtually the world is here. Love is where the heart is. So Asia is the future world, because most of us live here. And like I already said, that 60% of the population, Indian Ocean is the conduit. Just a few of the figures, those are available. Indian Ocean's dimension, the countries on the rim, in the hinterland, and the known reserves of resources of Asia. $99,000 trading ships, 9.84 billion tons of products passing through Indian Ocean every year, because that is how we are populated. The trade is worth $1 trillion per annum. The oil barrels, Strait of Hormuz, 17 million per day. Strait of Malacca. So a lot is happening here. So Asia plays an increasingly important economic and geopolitical role, and the Indian Ocean region provides the foundation for the trading system that underpins Asia's economic importance. That is why it was said, whoever controls the Indian Ocean dominates Asia. This ocean is the key to the 7 seas in the 21st century. The destiny of the world will be decided in these waters. So if this is the significance of Asia, of Indian Ocean, hence the policy of rebalancing Asia. So Indian Ocean is not in isolation. I will refer to you 2 old theories. One, as long China continues to operate from East and South China Sea, it can never become a superpower. And you can see why. Because its entry and exit is too much on the flank and passes through Strait of Malacca, only 2 miles wide passage. Based on this theory, came out the theory of containment of China. And when that was criticized, that was too specific, then it was called as pivot to Asia. When that was criticized, so it was named as rebalancing Asia. The second theory, which we can, in a hindsight, criticize today, is theory of warm waters. When erstwhile USSR tried to come to Indian Ocean or Arabian Sea. USSR was dismembered. It got dismembered, but it was never allowed to reach out to these warm waters. So, ladies and gentlemen, if both these powers can be strategically kept in their backyard enclaves, they will never be able to challenge. With this significance of Indian Ocean and these two theories, let's move forward and look at some of the future economic predictions. It says, and concentrate on the top line, it says that USA will be the leading superpower for another 20 years. Then it will be taken over by China, then Russia, or perhaps the next century will belong to Canada. If you look at the GDP at purchasing power parity, 2009 to 2050, so US is on number 1, but it is likely to come down to number 3 in 2050. But look at the difference in the amount of dollars written in front. Similarly, another study says that 2040, China will cross US in projected GDP. There is yet another study. The 10 leading economies in 2016 and 2050, and the growth rate. As of today, US imports 463 billion from China and exports 160 billion, 16 billion. The balance is in favor of China. Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, US is the richest economy, but its growth rate is stagnant at about 5%. Has a debt of about 20 trillion, of which she owns 102 trillion to China. In 2017, China foreign currency reserves were around 3.14 trillion, highest among all the nations. And China has comparatively a better growth, struggling at 8%. Both have budget deficit, but China's budget deficit is less. Now it is written on the wall. All future economic projections show that in 20 to 30 years, China will surpass US economy, and US will no more be a superpower. Now I am talking all this to you as a matter of understanding. But that is how it appears. That China has become the manufacturer of the world. China has become the banker of the world already. Second largest economy, second largest military spender, geographically secure and hard to conquer. It is in the depth. Largest foreign currency reserves, largest holder of US federal debt, and US largest trade partner. Now, having mentioned of this, come back to the region again. But keep in mind that you are looking at it through the prism of Indian Ocean. Like you have already seen the world map, and the population therein, and looking at the potential of that population, the future economic bloc is also here in Asia. If that is it, then what is happening? What is the geo-economic and geostrategic design then? We began with containment of China, then pivot to Asia, then rebalancing Asia. And if you now see that China and Russia have been declared as revisionist states. Please don't copy my slides, it's unethical. I'm here. South Korea and Iran have been declared as rogue states. And India has been declared as a strategic partner and a net security provider. Now, as the luck would have it, that this potential of Asia has, has challenged so much that such kind of design has come about. That China and Russia are the revisionist states. They're seeking the old orders. And it is publicly declared. Amazing how from cooperation to competition you transit by way of manifesting your power. And if you look at it, what is that rebalancing Asia? What is that containment design? I am again referring to an open source slide that as of today, US maintains nearly 800 military bases in more than 70 countries. So if you look at the presence of major bases, where do you find them? Most of it is in Eastern Europe. That is to prevent resurging Russia, asking them to spend 2% of their GDP. And then you see in South China Sea. And then inside are some of the affected Muslim countries. This map is even more clearer. Where all US is committed. Now this is open source. Now Eastern Europe, South China Sea, and somewhere in the middle we come to India. And India is using a phony rhetoric and outlook of projecting China as her future enemy, which has actually overlapped the interest. So India has started to suit this design, which I was mentioning. And now India is being prepared as a strategic counterweight to China. This is a geo-economic shift. This is a geo-military shift, which would look at keeping these two powers in their backyard. With that, India and US logistic agreements and maritime agreement which they have had is virtually an endeavor, a maneuver to pre-position in Indian Ocean. And they are now talking of Indo-Pacific region. And when you come to Indo-Pacific region, and you look at South China Sea, 90% China's trade passes through South China Sea. So all the countries of this region are being befriended. And I need not elaborate more that what is the situation there because of the North Korean peninsula. Now, Indo-Pacific, 368,000 US military troops are already there. And US has already started to disperse these forces throughout the region. And this is how in South China Sea or in the Pacific region, US is disposed of like this. And if you look at the full map, Eastern Europe, Afghanistan, and the way troubles are created with Iran, then India, then Pacific. So this is how it turns out to be. And hence the response, because it is understood that we are being contained. So this is the response of China, one belt, one road. Ladies and gentlemen, this is as a matter of understanding that I'm talking to you, that there's a great power rivalries which is being aggravated in Asia. Now, if you want it, you don't want it, but that is how it has turned out to be. Now, we haven't declared China and Russia as revisionist states. But since they are challengers, unfortunately, what can we do? Region has become more competitive. What do? There is a perpetual war in Afghanistan, and we don't see any end to it. This presence of Daesh in Afghanistan and in the region. In this, Pakistan continues to fight, terrorism. We have already lost 60,000 lives. Colossal economic loss. There's a turmoil in the Muslim world. India is growing militarily, okay. And you see there is a huge asymmetry. Look at the defense budget of two countries. So, unfortunately, for its defense, Pakistan has started to over-rely on its strategic capability. Now, there's a two-front situation coming up for Pakistan, and there's also a two-front situation coming up for India. There are disputes in the region. There is no dispute resolution. What do we do? There's so much of extremism, extreme thought, which has started to prevail. So we are actually living in an altered region, which has become very fragile. So this is where, somewhere, we are. But let me bring you back with these global power politics dimensions. Let me bring you back. Where do we go from here? As I have already explained, that the world is here. We are part of this world, and if you look at Indian Ocean, Pakistan, and Asia, what do you see? This is Pakistan. All the roads lead to and from Pakistan. We can really connect Asia from within to multiply its potential. And we, along with Iran, we are two fortunate countries that then we can connect Asia, the largest part of this world, with the other parts of the world. We are one such great country. All we have to do is that we have to re-alter the region. And we have to become a massive trade corridor. For doing that, I see our common future with Iran, common future with Afghanistan, with Central Asian republics, of course with China, sometimes Russia. This is how we have to look at our part of the world. This is the relevance of Indian Ocean with Pakistan. And if India can look at Pakistan by way of resolving its conflicts, why not? Let's resolve our conflicts. Because we cannot be enemy forever. That makes no sense. So all we need to do is engage, resolve our disputes, and both the countries have to belong to the future. Now the next question is that do we do it ourselves or we leave it to our children? I think the better would be that we do it ourselves and give a better world to our children. Now, ladies and gentlemen, like I have said, how do we see our common future in the region? And if we can become a massive trade corridor, obviously, we will become a trade hub. And if we will be trade hub, obviously we will be economic hub. And if we are economic hub, obviously Pakistan will be industrial hub. So, ladies and gentlemen, using its geostrategic location and making use of Indian Ocean, Pakistan will bring the world together. To me, it looks as if Pakistan was made to bring these worlds together. You can again have a look at this map with north frozen, semi-frozen, Pacific too much on the flank, Indian Ocean is the one which holds in its tides the future. And we need to understand the competition there. But Pakistan is looking at all this economically. We are looking at it for playing a better role for the world. We are not looking at it militarily. We do not challenge anyone. We would not like to be challenged or hampered by any means whatsoever. Pakistan is a country which has always worked for the betterment of the world. We are a great nation with warm hearts, with all the resilience at our disposal. We have a great future, and that is where we want to belong to. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for listening to me with a lot of patience. I do have a small clip to show.
I can't tell you your fortune, but I can tell you where fortunes can be made. I have $1 trillion worth of minerals buried right under my soil, and coal reserves that can keep burning for 500 years. Even my salt mines are worth gold because they are second largest in the world. I have all the right connections with the world's deepest seaport, connecting to one of the world's highest roads and leading to one of the world's oldest trading routes. You can always bank on me because my banking industry turned over 36% in profit, and my stock market was number 3 in the world. I am also the world's breadbasket, the 4th largest producer of rice, mangoes, and cotton, and the 5th largest producer of milk, sugarcane, and dates. From precision instruments that read your heart, to fabric that adorns the sleekest fashion shops. From a tiny matchstick to a roaring jet fighter. And maybe even the t-shirt you're wearing. I am everywhere. People think I'm getting old. But the truth is, I've never felt younger. My arteries are spreading and pumping with fresh blood. I'm flying higher and farther than I ever have. I'm running faster than ever. I'm filled with new energy. The passion to learn, the desire to discover and to remain as young as ever. I am not history. I am the future. I am the home of great people who changed the course of history, and also those who define the future. Be it theoretical physics, the Higgs, or neurosurgery, the Academy Award, or the Nobel Prize, this is the home of winners. Airwomen, sportsmen, and the statesmen, all walking out of the doors of over 160,000 schools. Schools that are teeming with dreamers, thinkers, and doers. You could try guessing who I am, but you'd be wrong. I am Pakistan.
I go back to in history, but before I go ahead and say something, I want to clarify something, and I hear it everywhere. Please take it off your heads and come in the right perspective. And that is that Mahan said that Indian Ocean will be the center of all activities of the world. I don't know what else he said. He never said anything like this. I sat in the Mahan Hall in US Naval War College. I sat in the Mahan Hall and I discussed it with all the people who have researched on Mahan. And then I read about 5 books that chap has confused the word. He never said this. And I have seen this being said by the Indians and by some of the Pakistani people. I wanted to tell the general about it, but he's gone back. Somebody must have fed him, you know. Anyway, the world is wonderful. Take it as it is, positively. And the world is very negative also. The world has given us so many things. Thank God for that. And the world has taken away a lot many things from the people who were not Europeans. Not Europeans. I start off with the era of discoveries, and I just want to point out a few things about 4 people, and that is, one is Admiral Zheng He, and then about Vasco da Gama, Columbus, and Captain Cook. Admiral Zheng He was a Muslim in the Ming dynasty of China. And because of the king's encouragement and his own desire to go and, you know, explore the world, he came out with, but some people say about 7 missions, some people say about 3, some people say it's in between 5 missions into the Indian Ocean. And the first mission he came with 33 ships with over 30,000 people. That is what I have read. And he came and he took the message of goodwill to all the kings in the area. Now he's starting off from what is now South China Sea, Indonesia, coming to Sri Lanka, going over to the African states, and he went also into the states of Ormuz in one of his missions, and he also went to Aden, and from there he sent a mission into Jeddah. What is very interesting is he was a Muslim. So he went to Jeddah, and those people came back, and because he was with the fleet, he had to stay back. He didn't go over there. He was having a great desire to go and offer, perform Umrah in Makkah. He didn't go, but he sent his missionaries, and they went over there, came back, and drew the sketches for him and all that, and he was very happy. Anyway, he went back, and this all started in 1405, and the last mission probably again, different reports coming. I have read 1415, and there is one report that goes up to 1435. I don't agree with that, but anyway. Then the Ming dynasty went away, and then all that activity was taken over. At one stage, he was a little dominating in the area when he went to Sri Lanka, and the king of Sri Lanka said, "I don't admit that you have a king," you know. So he picked up that fellow, put him in one of his ships, and then took him back to China and presented him to the king of China, whoever it was. And he got very angry, gave him a rap on the knuckle, and told him, take him back and put him back in Sri Lanka. So that is the good part of the story. Now, let's start off with Vasco da Gama. About 90 years down the line, Vasco da Gama sails from Lisbon, and he goes around the Cape of Good Hope and comes into... I'm not going to go into the navigation problems and the rest of the things, but on his first trip, he came across a ship that was taking pilgrims, Hajis, from Calicut to Medina, Mecca. And he was very angry with them. And he wanted to steal their things. And he told the women to take off their ornaments, and they gave him their ornaments. They gave him whatever they had. And he was seeing from his porthole that the women were begging him to leave them. But he wouldn't. He killed all of them, only 400. That's your great Vasco da Gama. Next I come to the great Columbus. He sailed from, again, around Lisbon, and he went to the Canary Islands, went across right over to the Bahamas, and what we say, the great Columbus discovered America. You know, he went over there, discovered America, and he was staying in one village, one place where the tribe's strength was 25,000 people. After 3 years, when he left, there were only 5,000 people left. He had killed all of them. Next comes Captain Cook. Vasco da Gama, on his third mission, I come back again, on his third mission to Calicut, was killed over here by the king. He was a Parsi Zumaratanian, you know. He was killed over here. Then 30 years, 40 years down the line, the Portuguese took him back. Captain Cook, another interesting fellow, educated. He did, as a matter of fact, a lot of world mapping is attributed to this great Cook. And he went to Haiti the third time, and the people over there killed him because his crew was doing everything that was nonsensical. So these are the great discoveries which the West did. And I tried to find out as to why did they go over there? Why did the Europeans come to our areas? And look what they did to the Maoris. Look what they did to the Canadian people over there. I found out that they left their countries for God, glory, and government. The 3 G's that are very much talked of. However, to my understanding, they added greed and guns to that. Why I have given you this great story, 4 stories and all that, is that these things are going on even now. They have not changed. The method has changed. The various conferences we go and sign, we say wonderful people we are, we have everything, signed everything that is peaceful. Well, try and understand that the people who brought malaria, tuberculosis, scurry, gonorrhea, and syphilis to every corner of this world are the Europeans. Don't forget that part of the story. However, there are 2 ways to think. and there is one way, which is what we are all preached. We are nice people. That is, we remain dukhi all our lives. We want to be good shaires. We want to have, dukhi shairi, dukhi filme, dukhi drame. Jab tak udhar rona hoga, to we want to remain over there. We don't want to come out. Those people who want to achieve something, go out and do it. They just don't talk. They just move. Our problem is that we want to remain dukhi, and we want to become darwishes, and we want to listen to Bulle Shah. We keep on listening to Bulle Shah. Fine, he's a good man. Good shairi. But then move on, man. There is a lot many things. People have gone to the Mars, and people have gone to moon and everything. We got to move. So that is what I wanted to say. Indian Ocean will remain vital. I will not make the statement that has been attributed to Mahan, and all I say is best of luck. Remember, all what these people have said are good things, and they deserve merit. Thinking. The thinking will keep on evolving. The ships of Admiral Zhang were 20 times bigger than the ships of Columbus. Columbus sailed with 3 ships. Zhang ship sailed with, I mentioned to you, 33 ships. He had carried 30,000. Whereas this chap, Columbus, carried 150 people. And look what they did over there. I've just mentioned to you what. So be very careful what the world is doing. The world is coming up with a lot many accords like this India, Japan, Australia and all that. Fine, we go and sign all these things. The person who signed UNCLOS from Pakistan was not a naval officer. He was not even a hydrographer. He just went and blindly signed and comes and tells people like us, oh, ji, main ji sign karke aa gaya ji, main bada hanne khan. Actually, he didn't understand the whole thing at all. This is what it is. Our problem is over here. So, you make your own choices. Dukhi rehna hai to dukhi raho. Nahi rehna to phir kam karo. And keep your money in your own country. Don't send it to UAE, London or South America. Bye-bye.
I think after such a comprehensive opening session, all that is left to me is to sum up what has already been said in the opening session. I am particularly glad today because the initiative I took more than a year back of bringing these two institutions together, that is the Bahria University and the Institute of Strategic Studies, is finally showing results. I think the university think tank combination is excellent in going ahead in the academic field, and we hope to see more elaborate cooperation in this regard, inshallah. As you have already heard, the world's oceans are the main medium of transportation on which 90% of the global trade depends. Oceans are also a great resource of food and other organic and inorganic materials. It is said that almost 70% of the world's population lives on or near the coast. With increase in population and dwindling resources on land, the significance of seas as an immense and scarcely utilized reservoir of food and other resources is obvious. Despite such overwhelming dependence on sea, the human understanding of the seas is very limited. If the first Sea Lord of Britain criticizes his ministers for sea blindness, which was also pointed out by Admiral Mukhtar, I think countries like Pakistan needs to take that very seriously. Pakistan, despite being a coastal state with a sea frontier of 990 kilometers, has failed to develop a maritime outlook. And therefore, we need to invest more time and resources in trying to understand this domain And this conference is just another step in that direction. Oceans have always been a major focus of mankind. The attraction for sea is founded in its riches as a repository of unending resource, a means of transportation, a dominion of power, and an arena of diplomacy and influence. It is often propounded, and not without reason, that the economic well-being and prosperity of the entire world is inherently linked to the sea. Robert Kaplan argues that the most contested area of the globe in the last century lay on dry land in Europe. In 2016, you are all aware that India signed a logistics agreement with the United States that will facilitate US facilities used by the Indian Navy and Air Force. In November last year, India signed a deal with Singapore to extend its access to Changi Naval Base. Recently, India has announced the finalization of a logistics exchange agreement with France that will allow Indian access to French military facilities as well. And India has also proposed use of Vietnam's Cam Ranh Naval and Air Base. As you are aware, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has almost complete economic dependence on the sea, with more than 90% of its total trade and 100% of the fuel imports coming from the sea. This dependence is likely to increase manifold with the operationalizing of Gwadar and CPEC. This would require a robust maritime infrastructure and a more developed shipping industry. Also, the non-traditional and asymmetric challenges of maritime piracy, terrorism, human drug and arms trafficking, challenges from marine pollution and climate change, etc., are very important issues, but I'll leave them for Commodore Tipu because he is going to speak particularly on maritime trends, and I don't want to preempt his talk. In short, the current security environment in the Indian Ocean region is characterized by some unique features. There is no region-wide security regime in the Indian Ocean. The sub-regional security regimes are weak. The existing security arrangements are primarily led by the West, orchestrated by the United States of America. And there is an emphasis on bilateral rather than multilateral security arrangements. It is against this complex backdrop, juxtaposed with challenging internal security and economic situation, that Pakistan has to formulate its maritime strategy. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I think after internal stability, of course, Pakistan's primary challenge is lack of maritime outlook. Since its inception, for understandable reasons, Pakistan's strategic orientation has primarily been continental. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to work in the new world order. Our strategic planners, our academicians, our intelligentsia, and decision makers, they'll all have to realize the importance of the sea and shift focus to sea. And I'm very happy to note that a Lieutenant General had tried to, and very successfully, understand the situation of the Indian Ocean region. Changing mindsets is never easy, but the transition has already begun, particularly after CPEC. All that we need to do now is to give it direction and momentum. and I'm sure we have a bright future ahead of us. With that, I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Respected ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. The topic of my presentation is FLASH, which is current global maritime trends and Pakistan. Due to the paucity of time, I'll restrict my talk to the issues which directly relate to Pakistan and are important to its security and socio-economic well-being. The Indian Ocean is fast becoming the new center of economic gravity as it ties together the economic fortunes of emerging Asia, the United States, and Europe. One can witness maritime rivalries as well as international cooperation in the Indian Ocean. The future trajectory of events in the Indian Ocean may not be very clear, but the economic and strategic importance of the ocean's major slocks, that is sea lines of communication, particularly its choke points, will continue to grow. A large percentage of world's armed conflicts are presently located in the Indian Ocean region, while the waters are also home to continually evolving strategic developments, including presence of extra-regional forces, emerging competition between China and India, nuclearization of the ocean littorals, US interventions in the regional countries with allied and some local support, threat of terrorism, continued threat of piracy in and around the Horn of Africa, and I must also mention the severe threat to the vital living resources of the ocean. I'll cover the topics briefly which are flashed in my presentation today. First, the maritime security. The naval response to the needs of maritime security in the Indian Ocean has been through deployment of navies by a number of countries and alliance partners. US-led combined maritime forces is a multinational naval partnership. CMF main focus areas are defeating terrorism, preventing piracy, and encouraging regional cooperation and promoting a safe maritime environment. It comprises of 3 task forces which are flashed, and besides CMF, European Naval Force and the Chinese Naval Task Force, along with independent deployments from a number of countries which include India, Iran, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, etc., are deployed in the region for anti-piracy and anti-terrorism operations. Pakistan is part of the CTF 150 and 151 and has commanded these forces several times. Pakistan has also been active in improving mutual understanding and interoperability of the world navies, contributing to the maritime security through Aman series of exercises. The latest was held in 2017, in which 35 navies participated, and 9 of these were with their units. I must mention here that it is an exercise which has brought together the US, Chinese, and Russian fleet units in an exercise together which is unprecedented elsewhere. The external powers have significant interests in the Indian Ocean region, including freedom of navigation and uninterrupted flow of trade and maritime commerce. Some Indian Ocean states are of the view that the responsibility of Indian Ocean maritime security should rest primarily with the littoral states. However, external powers have their legitimate interest to protect, and they also have the capacity to contribute, which the littorals lack. They are here to stay, as long as their interests remain here. The answer to the issue is effective maritime security cooperation, catering to needs of both the littorals as well as external powers. The experience of anti-piracy operations proves that this is possible. The Indian Ocean is also a major testing ground for great power relations between the US and the potential emerging contenders, China and India, who harbor mutual mistrust. The US naval supremacy will continue. However, China will slowly catch up in some capabilities, and also India to some extent. In view of their respective interests and ambitions, both China and India are starting to consider the Indian Ocean in terms of prerogatives and responsibilities, which is a potential source of future conflict. Pakistan remains cognizant of this situation, and naval development strategy attempts to cater to the maritime security needs remaining within the budgetary constraints that we have. Coming over to the piracy and armed robbery. First, I'll show you a few maps just to highlight the extent of piracy. This is an old map. It doesn't extend to this much now, but Horn of Africa, south of Nigeria and other areas, Malacca Strait and the ocean, sea area around it, and some armed robbery attempts in South America also happen. This is closer view of the Arabian Sea. This is about the extent to which the pirates operated, but they have now gone back and operate close to Somalia. Only the last year there was a piracy attempt in the Gulf of Aden. They initially, when they were at their height, were going into the Red Sea as well and going close to the Indian coast also. With the intervention of naval forces, in which Pakistan is very much part, in 2015 the high-risk area was reduced because of reduced piracy activity. Initially it used to be till the extent of this line, covering entire Pakistani waters into the Gulf and entire Red Sea, but now it has been reduced to this dotted line, in which our almost entire EEZ is now out of this high-risk area. Besides the threat to life of seafarers and cargo and disruption to trade, another implication is increased shipping costs because of imposition of war risk surcharges by the insurers. The sharp increase of piracy activity till 2012 led to an unprecedented international action to address the problem. This included naval deployments in the shape of coalitions as well as independent deployments aided by UN and other agencies, providing the governance framework for coordinating the fight against piracy. The measures showed success, and since 2012, no large-scale piracy attacks were reported. Only recently there have been some attacks on ships in the Gulf of Aden, and this has led to, as I have told you, redefining the piracy high-risk area in 2015. Pakistan is the pioneer regional country in the fight against piracy. Piracy incidents came closer to the waters of Pakistan, but vigilance of the Navy ensured that no pirate attack occurred in our waters. The Pakistan Navy is the only regional navy which has taken a lead role in the international missions in Gulf of Aden, in commanding the CTF 151 several times. The drop in maritime piracy in recent years may prompt nations and shipping companies to reduce counter-piracy measures around the world, particularly in the Horn of Africa. These would be premature, as the potential for its resurgence exists, particularly in an environment where counter-piracy efforts are reduced. Illicit trafficking includes trafficking of narcotics, illegal arms, human smuggling, and general smuggling of contraband items like liquor and smuggled gold, etc. Such trafficking involves transnational organized crime syndicates. They also have a nexus with pirates, as the medium and means used by the traffickers as well as pirates are same. And for that matter, the same means can also be used by potential terrorists. Illicit trafficking happens all over the world, and oceans are a preferred medium for this activity. Within the Indian Ocean, Pakistan is affected by all types of illicit trafficking, which is either headed to or from Pakistan's coast. Significant efforts on the coastal belt and at sea are employed to counter the illicit trafficking. Besides curbing this activity, it also contributes to countering piracy and terrorist activity.
The topic for my presentation today is the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, Opportunities for Pakistan. The Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, a relatively new idea in the maritime domain, was announced in 2017 in May at the African Development Bank Summit, which was held in Gandhinagar, India. This corridor is a duplication of the Freedom Corridor, which was originally proposed by the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe during his 2016 meeting with the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. So what exactly is this corridor? The Asia-Africa Growth Corridor is an Indian-Japan economic cooperation agreement which aims at the socio-economic development of Asia and Africa. This corridor is also built along the lines of the BRI initiative of China. Although the BRI initiative is a much larger and bigger project, this corridor can serve as a complementary corridor to the BRI. I am flashing the map of the corridor here, and I'll be coming back to this map later on by the time I'm finishing my presentation so that we have a better understanding of what exactly this corridor aims at and what it aims to achieve. The idea of the corridor was initially discussed in the India-Japan Annual Summit meeting in Tokyo in November 2016. The idea was to better integrate Africa by establishing strategic linkages with other areas such as South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Oceania. So what the corridor is suggesting that the eastern side of the world, the eastern rim from the eastern rim of Africa onwards to Oceania, which technically means 75% population of the world, should be interconnected. When the idea was initially proposed in 2016 as the Freedom Corridor, there were a lot of technical glitches that needed to be addressed. So the governments of Japan and India hired 3 think tanks. Number 1, Research and Information System for Developing Countries, RIS, based in India, which primarily deals with the African countries. Also, the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, the Indonesian think tanks that deals with the countries of ASEAN and East Asia, which also include Japan and India, the main sponsors of this project. And the Institute of Developing Economies, Japan's external trade organization, Japan. So this think tank specializes in identifying opportunities for Japan to invest outside Japan. So these 3 think tanks, in coordination with their governments, worked together for 7 months, and as a result, the Asian-Africa Growth Corridor was announced. The corridor aims for 4 target areas. Number 1, it aims for development and cooperation. The bulk of the development is to be carried out in the eastern rim of Africa, where the Japanese and the Indians will be building infrastructure, and this will lead to cooperation among the African countries, Japan and India. Second is the building of quality infrastructure, which will not only be digitally connected, but will also have institutional connectivity. We can safely say that there are 3 general objectives. Number 1, the corridor wants to advance both India and Japan's individual and mutual outreach towards the African continent, focused mainly on developing quality infrastructure investment. The term quality infrastructure investment is used purposefully, as currently the Japanese and Indian media outlets are promoting the Chinese infrastructure as not up to the mark, and they have been continuously using that the Japanese and Indian infrastructure will be quality infrastructure investment. The second one is to link Africa with the Indian Ocean region within an intercontinental context of Asia-Africa cooperation, whereby Japan and India are envisaged as playing leading roles